after Christmas, like this one from Jim.
Yes.
Wow, picture featuring a very doggy Christmas, of course.
I like that.
I love the pug.
I have a dog. And also a very whimsical Christmas for Pam's family, who chose to switch their traditional decor colors. Oh, that's so cute with the green. Livening things up. Livening things up.
We love
No,
this.
don't say that.
Pete asked for it. Here it is.
Color.
Another Fox and Friends viewer. Lynn writes, good thing I'm the only one who has to look at this mess. But nevertheless, Fox and Friends on in the back.
Oh, specifically
I didn't
Cliff
even
Jenkins.
see that. You got an eagle eye.
And here's a Christmas selfie from Fox News contributor and former GOP Congressman Jason Chaffetz heading to church with his wife before opening presents. He has a long arm if that's a selfie. I think someone else took it. But some great photos. There he is as well. It appears opening up, looks like a frame with a very festive colors and a dog eagerly watching.
We love the pants.
And I have met his wife, Julie, and she is absolutely lovely. And there's the congressman right there.
We'll bring him in. Jason Chaffetz, Fox News contributor and former congressman from Utah. How was your Christmas, sir?
Oh, thanks. Have all the family together. That was the best. And to top it off by getting to wear my red reindeer pants. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
And I hear there's a baby on the way in the family. Tell us about that.
Yes, can you believe it? Our daughter is actually pregnant, and she is due in February. So I wanted to unwrap that present early, but we're going to wait another 2 months.
You are going to be the youngest-looking grandpa
Jason.
I've ever seen in my life.
That's amazing news. Congratulations.
Looking good.
So dignified, yes. Well, speaking of dignity, we'll see in 2018 if Democrats can restore theirs by ever coming to the table. You know, the president has come forward and said he wants to work on infrastructure. He just had a tweet minutes ago. I believe we have it dialed up. Let me read it for you. It's the first we're reading it as well. We'll get you to react to it. He said, based on the fact that the very unfair and unpopular individual mandate has been terminated as part of our tax cut bill, which essentially repeals over time Obamacare, the Democrats and Republicans will eventually come together and develop a great new health care plan. So the president is bullish on infrastructure, and also it now sounds bullish on a health care plan working with Democrats. These folks resisted him for an entire year. Is there hope of any bipartisanship?
Well, I appreciate the president's optimism. I think that's helpful. But you need Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to actually come up with something that they want to do. We know that Democrats like to spend money, and we're going to spend nearly $100 billion on rebuilding Texas and Louisiana and Florida and other parts due to the hurricanes. The question for conservatives really is, where are you going to get all this money to do infrastructure? Remember, Obama tried to do a $787 billion infrastructure program, but the problem is a very, very small percentage of that actually went to roads, bridges, and infrastructure. So it's not an easy equation, especially when you have to get to 60 votes in the Senate.
Well, and Congressman, what if Democrats don't join Republicans at all? You know, the hashtag, the resistance that Democrats have been hunkering down on, doubling down on, not joining Republicans with tax reform. And Democrats are pointing to wins in Virginia as well as Alabama of signs that they have steam heading into 2018. The generic ballot shows Democrats up by double digits. Are you concerned for Republicans?
No, look, Republicans need to keep putting victories up and explaining to the American people what they're fighting for. I think the tax reform was a good example. They want to allow the American people to keep their own money in their own wallets, and somehow the Democrats think that's Armageddon. So, look, it is much tougher in order to get to 60. It'll be interesting if Mitch McConnell actually uses the so-called nuclear option, where he says, look, if we're going to the appropriations process, we're only going to have to get to 50. And that big decision will be on his shoulders. But Democrats want to spend money, but you got to cut somewhere at some point, folks. You can't keep spending more than $4.2 trillion in 2018.
Well, one salary that appears to be off the books appears to be Andrew McCabe starting in 2018 from the FBI. But there's a new report out that says the FBI admits it cannot verify the dossier claims of Russia-Trump collusion. And my question for you, Mr. Chaffetz, Jason, if you will, is this happened 17 months after we first learned of this dossier, or at least the FBI first learned. Why would you brief members of the FBI before verifying the existence and the existence of collusion and really taint the entire FBI in the process?
Well, that is the seminal question. We're talking about the senior-most people at the Department of Justice and the FBI. And if we recall, Congressman Trey Gowdy foreshadowed before McCabe came before the House Intel Committee and said he probably won't last the week. Now the reports are out that he's going to try to retire soon. He's got some sort of mark that he's trying to get to in order to maximize his retirement benefits. But the dossier we have long known is bogus. The question is, how was it funded? And that question has not been answered yet. And the second part is, did they use it to go to a court and get that court then to allow them to spy on Americans? And if that happened, you have gone way beyond anything of reason, and somebody should be prosecuted for that.
And Congressman, staying on that topic, as the former chairman of the Oversight Committee, there has been this allegation that the FBI, who said that they can't verify the dossier, potentially used that to obtain a FISA warrant for, in your estimation, do you think that's the case?
Well, based on what we've seen, if it's bogus, and how is it funded, if those things are both in the negative category and it was used. Now, remember, before the Senate, before the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jim Jordan, Ron DeSantis, other people were asking, how was this funded? And you had people at the senior-most level at the Department of Justice saying, well, we know, but we're not going to tell you. How can you not tell the Committee of Jurisdiction? That's a flashing red light that it was maybe funded through more nefarious ties, perhaps even with the Clinton campaign.
A lot of questions that will come out in 2018, I presume. We've got to get you on this last topic. So basically, the leader of the Never Trumpers, some might say at this point, Jeff Flake, had made some comments saying that Trump's policies or conduct is inviting a Republican challenger for 2020. The question I have for you is he underestimating the Republican base? You and I go out and talk to groups all the time. I don't see where the Jeff Flake, Mitch McConnell constituency is. I think amongst the base, there's a lot of love for what President Trump has done. Where would his voters come from?
Well, I mean, look at the last big vote with the tax reform. So, you know, it may be Jeff Flake plus one, you know, for a table of two. It's not a big growing group at this point. I love Jeff Flake. He's a very good friend of mine. I interact with him regularly. But there's a lot of support, and I think we need to make sure and not make it too personal. Just stick to the issues, and there's a lot to like. There's a lot of coming together, and finally, by the end of the year, they've actually learned to work together. Even Jeff Flake voted for the tax bill.
Why is he feeling this need? Because you can find Never Trumpers in think tanks. You can find Never Trumpers in newsrooms. But you go to grassroots groups across the country, the primary voters that would vote, I don't see a lot of Never Trumper support out there. So why is this such a personal thing for him against the president?
I don't know. I do think it got a little too personal. I think when you stick to the issues, there are things that Jeff Flake and President Trump disagree with. But also, one of the very best friends that Jeff Flake has is Mike Pence, the vice president. So they were very close when they worked together in the House. I hopefully that will smooth itself over the course of time. But it's also a signal from some people to say we like this Trump that works with us on tax reform. We want to see him come to the table and work in a united way with us moving forward. I think that's a reasonable ask.
Jason Chaffetz, thank you very much, sir. And
thank you, sir.
Congratulations on the forthcoming child, and Merry Christmas. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one, Grandpa.
Thank you.
Grandchild, I should say, yes.
Jillian Mealy now with your headlines. Good morning again,
Good
Jillian.
Tuesday morning to you guys, to you at home as well. What are you laughing at, Pete?
No, I said child, but it's his grandchild.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. We do have some serious news to get to, though, right now, starting with this Fox News alert. ISIS calling on bloodthirsty followers to hunt down non-believers. The sick threat coming from what is believed to be the first ever propaganda video made by ISIS fighters in Somalia. They are wanting lone wolves to take advantage of people's drunkenness at nightclubs and markets celebrating Christmas and New Year's Eve. Last month, the U.S. launched its first wave of airstrikes against ISIS in Somalia. Well, the Associated Press's top sports story of the year is a major smackdown between President Trump and the NFL. And I don't think many people are surprised by this one. The president fanning even more national anthem protests after this fiery speech.
You love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Well, more than 200 players protesting that following weekend. Former San Francisco 49ers QB Colin Kaepernick started it all last year as a way to speak out against racial inequality and perceived police brutality. he still have a job. A Christmas miracle for one couple whose baby girl decided to arrive early. Hannah Lindman suddenly going into labor a month earlier than expected while celebrating Christmas in Minnesota. The couple forced to pull over and get step-by-step guidance from a 911 dispatcher until paramedics arrived. Despite below zero temperatures, Hannah gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Poppy. Congrats. A veteran spends the holidays with the family he never knew he had. Gary Barnes reuniting with his daughter Olivia for only the second time ever in Florida this Christmas. The two originally connected last month after Olivia took an online DNA test. Before that, Barnes didn't even know she existed.
I went out with her mother, and then when they shipped me out the final time back to Vietnam, we lost touch.
Olivia had been looking for her dad since she was 10 years old. Guys.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yep.
Very, very cool.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian.
All right, President Trump delivered on his tax cut promise. So what do you need to do to prepare for the new plan going into 2018? We'll tell you what you can do right now.
And pop star Lorde caving to pressure from pro-Palestinian groups and facing major backlash this morning. We will explain when Fox and Friends returns. Some quick headlines here on your day after Christmas. Russian President Vladimir Putin's biggest challenger ever now barred from running against him. Election officials voting unanimously that Alexei Navalny is unfit to run due to a fraud conviction. Navalny says this is all a ploy to keep Putin in power. He's calling for supporters to boycott the March vote. Putin, as you might expected to easily win that fourth term. Didn't see that coming. And Grammy Award-winning artist Lorde cancels a concert in Tel Aviv. The show's promoter says the 21-year-old pop star is being called to join the pro-Palestinian boycott targeting Israel. Actress Roseanne Barr slamming Lorde on Twitter, writing, quote, "Boycott this bigot. Lorde caves to BDS pressure, cancels Israel concert." Probably have not heard the last of this battle right there.
Yeah. It's terrible. Just like the UN. Well, going forward, Christmas is over, but the chaotic holiday travel continues.
People now rushing back home and to work before ringing in the new year.
But Dana Jay from our Fox affiliate in Orlando is live at the Orlando airport with more. Dana?
Well, good morning, guys. I know you guys have snow up there in the Northeast. Believe it or not, here in Orlando, people are actually leaving our gorgeous weather and heading north. This is, as you said, one of the busiest holiday travel days of the year. Here in Orlando, we're expecting 145,000 people to pass through the airport throughout the course of the day. Looking at the big board, though, we do have some delays in and out of here, a lot of them to the Northeast. Boston Logan International Airport, nearly impossible to see through a blanket of snow there. In parts of Pennsylvania, so much snow they're breaking Christmas Day records in terms of snowfall. And drivers in St. Louis navigating slick roads on their holiday commute. So I'll go ahead and show you here in Orlando, our TSA line actually under control this morning. This is probably about the lowest that we've seen all day, but people are definitely heading north. You guys, if you have some time off, you want to come on down to Orlando, we are welcoming folks. Just make sure you pack your patience, especially if you are traveling from one of those places where you have snow on the ground. Live here in Orlando.
Sounds like people are going to need that patience.
Yeah, I'm traveling with a 7, 5, and 2-year-old today, so
Pete's going to need that patience.
They pack their patience. Probably not. Yeah, we'll see. Be nice to us if you see us in the airport.
President Trump delivered on his tax cut promise. So what do you need to know to do, in fact, to prepare for the new plan? We'll tell you what you can actually do before 2017's over.
And a big show still ahead on the program. Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert and Mark Steyn live next hour. But first, on this day in history, December 26, 1972, President Harry Truman died at the age of 88, a historic figure. And in 2004, on this day, the Colts' Peyton Manning broke the single-season touchdown pass record when he threw his 48th and 49th of the season. That would indeed be a record.
And also in 1968, Marvin Gaye was topping the charts with his hit song, I Heard It Through the Grapevine. Heard that one before?
An amazingly ruffled shirt.
Tax tax plan. Well, here to weigh in is CPA and founder of Geltrude and Company, Daniel J. Geltrude. Daniel, what's your number one tip for Americans here, kind of wondering how this is going to affect them heading into 2018?
Besides buying gold and living in your basement because Armageddon is coming, as Nancy Pelosi said. Yes.
And buying guns.
Besides that, obviously,
buying guns,
of course.
Well, the first thing that you can do is make a donation to a qualified charity. Now, listen, Pete, qualified charity is not your lazy cousin. We're talking about a 501c3 organization. So it's good to give. You want to make sure if you're going to be losing that next year, potentially, because you're not going to be able to itemize your deductions, that you're making all the charitable donations that you can possibly do this year.
You may not pass the threshold of $24,000 next year. So
exactly.
This year when you can. Got it.
Yes.
How about on the retirement side? You've got some advice there, too.
Sure. Whether there's tax reform or not, one thing that you want to do is always maximize your contribution into retirement plans, whether that's your IRA, your 401k. 401k particularly good because many times there's an employer match to that. So you want to maximize that. And what's interesting, you'll have people that will over-withhold on their paychecks in order to get a refund when they file their tax return. Yet they don't think about, hey, let me maximize how much I put into my own retirement plan. You're giving the government an interest-free loan.
What about state income taxes?
State income taxes, as we've heard so much about, this is going away. Right. SALT, state and local taxes. So there's two pieces to this. First, state income tax. You want to make sure that you pay all of your 2017 taxes on time, which means your last payment, which is due, estimated tax payment, which is due January 15th, that you speed that up and make that within the next week. Property taxes. You want to, if you can, prepay your 2018 property taxes in 2017.
Sure.
Now, there's a lot of lines being formed at your local tax collector's office, but it's worth the wait.
And the third point might be, if you live in a high-tax state, you could just move to a low-tax state.
Florida, Texas, Nevada, looking better and better.
Texas look better and better. So, and how do you predict it? You've dug into the weeds for us on this, but in the overall sense, how do you feel like this tax plan is going to affect the economy?
I think it's going to do very well for this economy. Most people are getting a tax break. I would say about 80%. It's not a perfect plan, clearly, but it's a very, very good plan.
What about simplification? Because I know that was the goal for the Republican Party as well as President Trump. Will people's taxes be simplified?
We didn't quite get to the simplification part because we have 7 tax brackets before, we have 7 tax brackets now. Alternative minimum tax, we had that before, and we still have it for individuals. So we didn't quite get to simplification.
Does the standard deduction, does that make it easier for anyone, or what are your thoughts on that?
On the
doubling the standard deduction?
Sure, that's going to help because it's going to push more people into the standard deduction, and
simpler.
And tax rates have gone down, so most people are going to benefit.
But we're not
clearly.
we're not putting H&R Block out of business with this.
No. Nor are we putting Dan Geltrude out of business.
Sorry,
more importantly,
why am I promoting your opponents, or not your opponents, your competitors?
I was going to say, Pete and I may need to talk to you after the show and get some free advice.
It's Geltrude and Company, LLC, to make sure we get the proper plug-in for a man who does this business as well. Daniel, thanks for being here.
Thank you for your expertise and upcoming advice to Pete.
Free of charge. Free of charge, of course. All right, coming up, a potential shakeup near the top of the FBI. Could Andrew McCabe's possible retirement end the Russia investigation? Well, Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert joins us live to react next hour.
Plus, seats taken. A United passenger says that the airline gave her seat away to Democratic Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee. Well, how the airline is trying to explain this one, you're going to want to listen to that.
Remember, seats taken.
Seats taken.
Forrest Gump.
I know, I didn't say that.
Won't admit what I already know. I've never been the best at letting go.
This is not a cloud. This is a car protected.
Trump ready to get back to work after his first Christmas as commander-in-chief.
President tweeting yesterday, I hope everyone is having a great Christmas. Then tomorrow it's back to work in order to make America great again.
After the U.S. announces the Israeli embassy move, Israel now in talks with 10 more countries to do the same.
Jeff Flake had made some comments saying that Trump's policies or conduct is inviting a Republican challenger for 2020.
It may be Jeff Flake plus one, for a table of two. It's not a big growing group at this point.
A potential shakeup near the top of the FBI. Could Andrew McCabe's possible retirement end the Russia investigation?
So what we really want to know is, was the dossier the basis for weaponizing the intelligence community against a political campaign? This would be the greatest scandal, certainly of my lifetime.
Florida deputy sharing this picture of a boy named Jacob, giving him a homemade wooden American flag. Jacob says his plan was to give flags to any law enforcement officers that he saw.
I wish they had cut early, though, because Todd was breaking it down next to me. So.
Your leg was going.
I was, but you were really. Next time, I'm going to secretly film this.
As they said when Elaine did that dance in Seinfeld, it's a seizure set to music.
It was a reenactment of Todd's dance.
America is glad, though, that TV's Todd Pyro was not on the screen.
Are they,
it wasn't I don't know. Maybe. We'll see.
I think they missed out.
No, welcome to Fox and Friends. We appreciate you being here on this Wednesday, the day after Christmas, December 26th. Brian, Steve, and Ainsley are off, so we are your humble fill-ins this morning, asking you for your pictures to come out, and they've been pouring in, like this one from Jason, whose toddler, Aurora, opens her gift with a scowl. We don't see Aurora. There we go.
There they are.
Oh, see? As the baby Mary is going nuts, she's happy. Aurora's like,
she's not having it.
I'm not having it yet.
Let's go to the next one. I'm going to spare that young child. Grandpa Joe reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" to the kiddies. How cool is that?
Yeah, very festive looking. I love it.
And we've got this one from Anthony, whose son is deployed in Kuwait. This Christmas, he writes, we miss him terribly, but he chose to defend our freedom. Keep sending us your photos from Christmas, and we're going to be showing them all morning long. And thank you so much to his son's service.
I want to ask Pete something. Pete, of the three of us, obviously, you were the one that was deployed during the holidays. Quickly, describe what that feeling is like.
Yeah, I mean, it's bittersweet, right? I mean, you want to be with your family, you want to be home, but you know why you're there. And you get this amazing moment to... Everyone's in the same boat. The entire unit is stuck on a base or stuck on patrol. I did it in Guantanamo Bay. We delivered eggnog, on a four-wheeler. And then in Iraq, our first sergeant dressed up as Santa Claus and went out on patrol. I mean, you find funny ways to sort of make the fact that everyone's away happen. So we've asked you to send your photos, and you have on Christmas Eve. We really appreciate it. Brian, Stephen, Ainsley, you should email us your Christmas photos.
Yes.
friends@foxnews.com, and maybe we'll show them on the program.
I'd love to see it. Ainsley's little girl is the cutest thing ever.
She really is.
Lots of pictures of her.
That's right. But we've got some news this morning as well. President Trump, fresh off a working Christmas weekend at Mar-a-Lago, already has his eye on bipartisanship this morning.
Griff Jenkins joins us live in D.C. with that and what is ahead. Hey, Griff.
Good morning, guys. Well, the president and First Lady may remain at Mar-a-Lago through New Year's, but that doesn't mean they're not back to work. The president already tweeting this morning. He says, based on the fact that the very unfair and unpopular individual mandate has been terminated as part of our tax cut bill, which essentially repeals over time Obamacare, the Democrats and Republicans will eventually come together and develop a great new health care plan. That certainly suggests that we could be looking at another another run at doing something on health care. And that's not all. The president also saying that he wants to tackle infrastructure, something he believes could get bipartisan support, trying to fix those roads, bridges, and tunnels across the country, which are badly in need of repair. Meanwhile, the White House says the president has also invited Speaker Paul Ryan and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to Camp David in January to make sure they are all on the same page. And that long list of things to do also includes defense spending, immigration, DACA, what to do about the children brought here illegally, and disaster relief, something that they didn't finish, $81 billion to fix the problems left by Mother Nature. And lastly, guys, yesterday down at Mar-a-Lago, the president and First Lady were providing hundreds of meals, including turkey, stuffing, and gravy for Secret Service members, military, and local law enforcement who are working on Christmas. One law enforcement officer saying, didn't want to be quoted, but he said, listen, what he did was just amazing. So it's back to work and time to get busy.
Oh, it's very cool.
Griff.
I mean, the man owns an entire resort, and he can open up a ballroom and feed all the guys guarding him, because while he gets a Christmas, they're out there, like so many law enforcement, first responders, everybody working on that day. A great gesture.
It's a very respectful gesture.
All right, guys. If America and the world were a sports team, America, would get the C for being the captain, because we're sort of in charge right now, and we are leading the way on so many fronts. And so I want to ask you, there's really two things. One, it's the embassy in Israel, and two, quite frankly, with the United Nations chipping away at their bloated infrastructure. Let me ask you, first to the Israeli embassy. What does it mean to the world when we step up and take a position where we say, this is what we're doing, this is the way it's going to be? What do you think that does for us?
Well, it's the only way anything really changes. And that's why the big news out this morning is the fact that the Israelis are reporting, Israel's reporting that up to 10 countries may actually join us in moving their embassies from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem inside Israel. And it's because without America taking that step, especially in light of the anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic view that most of the world takes, that's never going to change. But now that we recognize reality, the eternal truth that Jerusalem is the capital, you've got Guatemala, a few other countries have said they will, and then 10 others that are still anonymous right now, potentially in talks to do that. This is America first in action. This is American leadership. Leadership is not voting with everybody else. Leadership is not saying you're going to do something, which has been U.S. policy forever, and then not actually executing it. President Trump took the bold step. Others follow real leadership. That is what America first looks like.
Well, and that anti-Israel bias you mentioned is also shown at the UN. And there was, in fact, 100 senators that had signed on to a letter back in April expressing that concern of this anti-Israel bias. But now UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and the Trump administration is saying no more. She's actually said that they're going to cut $285 million. And she put out a statement. And what she said was, we will no longer let the generosity of the American people be taken advantage of or remain unchecked. You can be sure we'll continue to look at the ways to increase the UN's efficiency while protecting our interests. So this is a really important step, because far too long have we seen Congress, we've seen presidents complain about the UN. And now Nikki Haley, as a UN ambassador, is saying, you know what, we're actually going to take action on this. Yeah, we're going to roll back the funding. So, if you want to vote against us, you want to try to embarrass us on the national stage, well, guess what? We're rolling back our money.
We're going to take your name, and then we're going to take our wallet out. And yes, my wallet is.
Look, you got to check out this thing. It's amazing.
It's a $100 bill. I got it at the dollar store.
You can hand that over to me.
I kind of like it. No, I won't be handing it over to anybody.
I'll hang on to that.
But the reality is, we have a big wallet. We fund 22% of the UN's budget. And by saying we're going to take $285 million and pull it out of the budget, that's a significant statement. And it says we're not going to stand back and be lambasted by this body. We're not going to take a step like move our embassy, then watch you take a show vote to make us look bad, and then just sit back and take it. It's a total indictment. Yeah, here's the wallet, by the way. It's a $100 bill, but I got it for $1. It's a total indictment of the international system, which at this point is rigged against free countries like the U.S. and Israel in favor of smaller countries that want to impugn us. That's what the UN has turned into.
Well, can I ask you this? Why, under the Obama administration, for those 8 years, did we take a, oh, we're scared, sorry, we're U.S., sorry, we're big in the world? Why did we take them when we act with a measure of strength? The world respects us.
Well, and it's also, this is President Trump following through with moving the embassy, following through simply with what so many presidents said that they were going to do, as I mentioned earlier in the show. You have President Clinton, you have President Obama, you have President George W. Bush. Congress has also said as much. So you have so many people saying that this is exactly what should be done. And now President Trump is saying, we're going to get this done. We're going to follow through on those promises.
To answer your question, it's because Barack Obama was baptized in the Blame America First policy in academia and elsewhere. I mean, he doesn't believe America is exceptional and a leader in the world, and therefore he pulled us back from the world. It's that simple. So, and President Trump has very much changed that.
Another never Trumper is Senator Jeff Flake, or at least senator for another couple minutes. And he had the following to say with regard to the 2020 race for the White House. Take a listen.
I do believe if the president is running for re-election, if he continues on the path that he's on, that's going to leave a huge swath of voters looking for something else. He's probably inviting a Republican challenge as well, but certainly an independent challenge, yes.
And when asked about whether Jeff Flake himself would be in the ring, he said, I don't look that forward ahead, but he didn't say no. To Mr. Flake, I asked the question, you are projected to lose Arizona, your state, by tremendous amounts of votes. You think you're then going to go, like, win the presidency?
Well, and Todd, you took the words out of my mouth, because Senator Flake was expected to have a tough primary, expected to have a tough general election. So it's sort of interesting for him to be making those comments, considering the fact that he himself was going to face a real uphill battle electorally.
Find me this real big swath of Republicans that don't like President Trump. If you've been to a single grassroots event or talked to any voters that don't live in the island of Manhattan, you realize there's an incredible amount. His support amongst his base is even stronger today than it was before. So maybe in some think tanks, maybe in some newsrooms, maybe some Republicans that want to be loved by the left-wing press, they'll say, oh, President Trump is terrible, we're going to run against him. There is no swath of voters. They're not there. They're going to get 1%, 2%, 3% in a primary and get beat by Trump if the president continues to do what he's doing right now. So these are foolish words from an ever-Trumper who's never going to give up.
Point, Pete, you have a situation where you go to these parts of the country and you realize President Trump is beloved by these people. He can't do a lot wrong. And while you may say, okay, everybody in the Republican Party is realizing now, they weren't all on the Trump train originally. They have gotten on the Trump train because they see if they don't, this doesn't behoove them for their political career.
Senator Flake just didn't get the memo.
We're being told to move on, and we need to hear the headlines. So, Jillian, what do we need to know?
All right, guys, so we're talking about extreme weather. I mean, we're talking it's cold in New York, but a lot of places across the country are dealing with extreme whiteout conditions, blizzard-like weather pounding the Northeast and Midwest right before millions of Americans head back home after Christmas. The Boston Logan International Airport almost impossible to see through a blanket of snow, and more than 21 inches of snow hitting Erie, Pennsylvania, breaking a Christmas Day record. Drivers in St. Louis, Missouri, navigating slick roads for their holiday commutes. And as a result of that weather, a packed JetBlue flight skids off the runway coming in for a landing in Boston. The plane slipping and spinning 180 degrees before finally coming to rest. Passengers say it felt like the plane was doing donuts, but they praised the pilot and crew for how they handled the situation. Everyone on board the flight from Georgia safely evacuated. The plane had to be towed to the terminal. It wasn't pretty, but it doesn't matter because the Philadelphia Eagles now have home field advantage throughout the NFL playoffs.
Direction made from 35. That one's heading down the middle and good with 22 seconds.
Yes, kicker Jake Elliott sealing the deal in the fourth quarter against the Oakland Raiders. The Eagles go on to win 19-10. And to the AFC, the Steelers dropping a lump of coal in the Texans' stocking. Pittsburgh running all over Houston 34-6. But the one bright spot for the Texans, take a look. An amazing touchdown catch by receiver DeAndre Hopkins, batting the ball around, then turning around just in time to make the grab. As I was reading that, I heard some boos from behind me over there.
Because you're insufferable right now. You're completely insufferable. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm hopping on the
get on the Vikings.
I'm hopping on the Vikings.
I'll see you in the NFC
because I can't cheer Eagles. I can't do that.
I'm a Redskins fan, but we're no threat to anyone.
Let's be clear. No kneelers on the Vikings. I don't know if the
no kneelers on the Eagles.
Really? Okay.
Fist raisers. No kneelers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kneel free. We'll take it.
Thanks,
Jillian. Appreciate it.
Coming up, also a potential shakeup near the top of the FBI. Could Deputy Director Andrew McCabe's possible retirement end the Russia investigation? Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert joins us live to react next.
And sometimes the best gifts aren't under the tree. The amazing sailor surprise for this Navy mom that will make your day. You're going to want to stay. You're going to want to listen to this.
As Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, otherwise known as Andy in those text messages, is reportedly set to retire early next year after being grilled on the Hill twice for 7.5 hours about anti-Trump bias within the agency.
We have GOP Congressman Louis Gohmert, who is a member of the House Judiciary Committee, who's with us now to give us some reaction to that announcement that he may retire. And of course, Andrew McCabe has been at the center of great controversy. His wife was the one that received political donations from Governor Terry McAuliffe, a close Clinton ally. He was also part of that email exchange between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, talking about the insurance policy as well. So what are your thoughts on this potential retirement and what it means for the overall investigation?
Well, I sat in on questioning last week of Andy McCabe, and that was supposed to be confidential. I won't betray that confidentiality, but he doesn't remember some things the same way that Mueller and some of the others do. But he can't go fast enough. Anybody that has that much disrespect for the Republican Party, for the President of the United States, this goes way beyond just having a political opinion like everybody does. This is things that affect your judgment. So Mueller, I have said since day one, since he was appointed, he's bad news. He's out for a scalp. He would love to get Trump's scalp. He would love to be the hero of the left to take out Donald Trump. He will do everything he can to do that. And Mueller is not going to be deterred by these people falling around him. He wants a scalp, and he'd love to get POTUS. If he cannot get the president, he will, like we've seen, he'll take a Mike Flynn, and it was kind of sad the way that all happened.
Sure.
But we're in some dangerous water right now. Mueller's going forward.
Congressman, take us behind those doors. I mean, I would been very fascinating to watch any portion of those 7.5 hours. I know you can't betray confidentiality of what was said, but some of these public things we've talked about, the donations to his wife's campaign, the text messages that refer to insurance policy, what he did in the Clinton email investigation. I assume all those questions were asked. And what was your overall takeaway, his disposition? I mean, did you walk away really mistrustful, or was he able to answer some things?
Well, from things we already knew, I carried in some distrust. What we know is factual about Andy McCabe. He sounded like he was very straightforward, but like I say, he remembers some things very different from some of the other people who have made public statements. So, and he has given some information that needs further investigation to see if he's right about. But the impression is that my impression is since the day Mueller went in, he has not been the upstanding, fair guy that people have painted him as being. He did more destruction to the FBI. He weakened the FBI more so than J. Edgar Hoover or anybody ever did. He purged the training records of anything that offended radical Islamists. He weakened us of our ability to see, for example, the Boston bomber. They went out and talked to him because of Mueller. They didn't know what to ask. And he persistently shows just disdain toward people who are very conservative.
Well, and Congressman,
he's a problem.
Real quick, do you have faith in Mueller?
No, I have no faith in Mueller. I haven't from day one. And in fact, I don't know if you can see that, but that was taken in June by somebody else. I was telling the president, you have got to appoint a special counsel to investigate Mueller, Comey, McCabe, Lynch.
You've been ahead of this the whole time,
fiasco. Yeah.
We've got to leave it right there, unfortunately. But we'll come back to you
as
this develops.
There's a lot of work yet to do.
Appreciate it, Congressman. Thank you.
We have Mark Stein next as well. Thank you, Congressman.
Time now for some quick headlines. A topless woman tries to swipe the baby Jesus from a nativity scene at the Vatican. Oh, I wish we could tell Hegseth and Stein right now. They're having a blast. The feminist activist was tackled by police just hours before Pope Francis's Christmas message. And a holiday fireworks celebration goes terribly wrong, he tried to say. Take a look. Yeah, that's not cool. At least 22 people, including 6 kids, burned in central Cuba when those fireworks started exploding uncontrollably. The display, part of a traditional Christmas Eve celebration. Hopefully next year's tradition will not include the injuries and the just general explosions.
Thanks, Todd. Well, the U.S. cutting $285 million from the UN's budget, from our contribution to the UN's budget next year. Ambassador Nikki Haley vowing, quote, "We will no longer let the generosity of the American people be taken advantage of or remain unchecked. You can be sure we'll continue to look at ways to increase the UN's efficiency while protecting our interests."
Here to break down why this is a good move for America is author and columnist Mark Stein. Mark, First,
Mark.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, happy Boxing Day, as we say in my
too.
cultural tradition.
Quickly, what is Boxing Day?
Boxing Day is the day when you traditionally give a box of Christmas gifts to your servants. I gave my necktie to my footman this morning,
understood.
which is why I celebrate Boxing Day.
You're such a giver.
Well, it is generous.
Speaking of giving, we are not going to be giving as much to the UN, and the UN's not going to be having as much. $285 million out of their budget. Why is the actions that Nikki Haley took, obviously through the president, why is this so important?
Well, I think the problem with the UN is that it was the Second World War victory parade preserved in aspic, and that was a great idea in 1945. The majority of members didn't exist as independent nations in 1945, and now you have a situation where essentially the dictatorships vote en masse, vote as a bloc. The 58-member Organization for Islamic Cooperation, for example, is a monolithic bloc, and the democracies are outvoted. And half the democracies are anyway just people who strike attitudes, like the European Union did mostly with the Israel vote. And so it's simply not an effective vehicle for America. And America, by the way, just to accentuate the cultural differences, you guys aren't imperialists. So when you found yourself top dog in the world in 1950, instead of having a conventional empire, you set up these multilateral institutions to work through them. And one of the results of that is that you diminish your own voice and you bulk up all these pipsqueak poses.
What impact do you think it's going to have? Because the Trump administration is clearly sending a message to the UN. Will it have an impact?
Yeah, I think it will. I think if he's serious. I mean, Trump is the one guy who would do it. If you think of previous Republican presidents, the first George Bush was the kind of guy who could name off the top of his head the deputy trade minister of the South Sandwich Islands. He thought multilaterally like that. And George W. Bush was a bit like that. But Trump I think, is serious, and he's the one guy who could actually roll back the UN. 22%. Why should one nation fund 22% of the costs of a club with 200 members?
And then get outvoted and indicted by that very club.
Yeah, exactly. So these guys all have their stupid anti-American vote and then stick U.S. taxpayers with the tab.
It's an important moment for sure. Another thing the president has been very serious on is immigration, specifically illegal immigration, and especially chain migration, as we learn now that 2 more terror suspects were brought into the U.S. through chain migration. Do we need any more proof that our immigration system, legal immigration system as well, is fundamentally broken?
Well, look, if you have chain migration, you don't have an immigration system, because 70% of immigrants to the U.S. come through chain migration, which means the United States has effectively no say in them. All countries have the right to select who they admit within their borders. If you have chain migration, you don't have this guy in Pennsylvania, for example. He's an Egyptian, this latest jihadist. He's an Egyptian who is a distant relative of some guy who came 2 generations ago. They're basically self-selecting. That's a huge security flaw for any nation.
Well, and we've also seen the visa lottery come under scrutiny as well. But do you think Congress is going to act on this? Because for some of these changes to be made, it's going to take an act of Congress. So is there the will in Congress to make these changes?
And how is this not a layup for Republicans? How have they not absorbed what the president's talking about in light of this?
Well, because it's I think it's a situation where the donors outvote the voters in a way. But this is an 80% issue. If you're an American citizen, citizenship has its privilege. You don't give it away in a lottery. It's not like tri-state megabucks. That's ridiculous.
Mark, I hate to bring this next subject up because I don't want to ruin your New Year's Eve plans with Rosie O'Donnell. But there's a little fight going on right now between Paul Ryan and Rosie O'Donnell. Paul Ryan tweeted this: at the end of each year, no matter how short or long it may feel, there's always Christmas waiting for us, as that sense of wonder the shepherds felt when the angels appeared in the night sky to herald the birth of a Savior. To which Rosie responds, Paul Ryan, don't talk about Jesus after what you just did to our nation. You will go straight to hell. You screwed up, fake altar boy, hashtag Judas much? Go.
She basically walked in on his nativity scene the way that topless woman did, and picked up the baby Jesus and smashed him over the head with it. Look, I don't know whether Paul Ryan is going to hell. My vision of hell actually is being trapped on a long elevator ride with Rosie O'Donnell. The best thing, if you're a Democrat, the best thing that Democrats could do to sweep Congress, win the 2020 presidency, would be to send every minor celebrity with a political opinion to an atoll off the Falkland Islands for until November 2018. They would sweep the House, the Senate, they'd get everything. These celebrities are killing them.
Well, the good news is that people are going to want to hear more from you, and they can tonight because you're actually filling in on Tucker Carlson tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's the season of guest hosts on the 12th day of guest hosts.
Why do you think we're here?
Yeah, I know. Fox News gave to me Pete Hegseth in a pear tree. It's terrible. Everyone hates the guest. Everyone hates the guest.
You chose the wrong line of work because that voice of yours. You're the songbird of our generation.
Well, no, all just guest hosts though.
What?
We're all replaced. Aren't we all just guest hosts at the end?
Well, I'm actually in the amalgamated union of guest hosts. We have an annual conference, and the chairman never shows up, so someone has to fill in for him. That's how it works.
Fittingly so.
Yeah.
Good luck filling those New Year's Eve plans without Rosie.
Yeah, happy Boxing Day.
Good to see you.
You got it. All right. Wall Street opening for the first time since the Christmas holiday in about an hour. Can the markets move even higher? We are live at the New York Stock Exchange next.
And first, teacher in California into a sanctuary state. Now, Governor Jerry Brown has a new gift: get-out-of-jail-free cards for dozens of inmates.
It is your shot of the morning. The best Christmas gift this Navy sailor's mom could ever ask for.
Well, she was told to unwrap a full-length mirror as a Christmas present, revealing her daughter standing right behind her.
The video of their emotional reunion has gone viral with more than 7 million views. You watch that over and over, you just get the chills.
Yeah, she
really sweet.
is. Yeah, I mean, no idea, and that happens. My goodness, it's a very authentic and real human reaction. I love it. All right, moving on. We've got the record-setting stock market. It's back and running today, and after being closed for Christmas, of course.
Nicole Pedalides. I messed it up, Nicole. I'm sorry. From the Pedalides. You know you from the Fox Business Network. Joins us now from the floor of the stock exchange on if the surge can continue. My friend Nicole, take it away.
Good morning to you. I told the I-Man, I told Hannity, Pedalides, like a box of Wheaties. Very simple, right? You got it right. Let's talk about what we're seeing this morning, my friends. Well, we're seeing the Dow Industrial Futures right now. The futures are looking down about 44 points as I speak. However, it has been an incredible year. This week will be a light trading week. Obviously, some people will be away, but we will get some economic news later in the week on confidence and some manufacturing numbers. But big picture, what a year it has been for the 401ks and IRAs, and we get in America's tax bill right at the closing bell at the end of this year, so that's a big one as well. Right now, January, when we wake up, we have a new tax bill. February, people will start to see more money in their pockets because the withholdings in their paychecks will be less, so they'll have more money. So that's for about 84% of Americans. And then for the markets, for all your 401ks and IRAs, we've had a great year for 2017, and since the election, the Dow's up about 35%, but this year 25%. So it's been a stellar year. And then when we look at the names that really drove the Dow, Boeing, Caterpillar, United Health, Apple, 3M, these have had an incredible year. Boeing up about 90%, Caterpillar 67%. But fundamentally, we're doing great. We're doing great, guys. We're talking about earnings, the economy, the labor market is doing very well, home building, the 10-year bond has been on the rise, and now with repatriation bringing back billions and billions of dollars, maybe as much as $400 billion, that will help to boost the U.S. dollar. So nobody even sees this thing stopping. I'm sure some of you have some of the greats in your portfolios at home, including Facebook, Tesla, Apple. Those names were up more than 50%, Boeing 90%, McDonald's, Microsoft, Google. These have all had an unbelievable 2017. And when I talk to these traders, they don't see any reason why it just won't continue in the new year.
Let's keep it going.
Bitcoin, maybe that should be the one you should,
words.
a little caution.
I'm looking at it right now. Bitcoin up $800 in the last 24 hours.
Right? It's about 15,000 this morning. I mean, it is so volatile. It is like a roller coaster ride with the white knuckles. People are using they're looking up how to use their credit cards to buy Bitcoin.
Yes.
Well, don't do it. And how about a great American company? Buy the S&P 500. Go American. Get some good companies under your belt. I don't know. It seems a little flighty.
And we're thankful to have you, Nicole, to break it down for us. So thank you.
Nicole Petalides, live from the floor of the New York
And now
Stock
we also have Jillian Mealy to break the news headlines down for us as well.
That's right. Good morning to you guys. Good morning to you at home. Happy Tuesday. First, he turned California into a sanctuary state. Now, Governor Jerry Brown is pardoning 132 people, including 2 illegal immigrants who were set for deportation. Both men from Cambodia are convicted felons, but can now petition judges to reopen their cases. One was nabbed for stealing a car, the other on a weapons charge. Brown also commuted 19 other sentences, continuing his annual Christmas tradition. Well, the NFL making major changes to its concussion protocol after several players were allowed to continue playing despite being injured. A neurotrauma consultant will now monitor games from the NFL Command Center to help guide medical staff after big hits. Also, if a player suffers an impact seizure on the field, they will be taken directly to the locker room to be examined. That rule comes after Houston Texans quarterback Tom Savage was left shaking after a violent hit earlier this month, but was allowed to keep playing. That was a tough one to watch. An angry passenger demanding a written apology after she claims United Airlines gave her first-class seat to a congresswoman. Here's what she says happened. Jean Marie Simon says Texas Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee took her spot after United mistakenly thought Simon canceled her flight to D.C. She says she was given a new seat and a $500 travel voucher, but no formal apology. Jackson Lee maintains she didn't ask for or receive any special treatment. The incident coming months after a doctor was dragged off a United plane for refusing to give up his seat. Minor League Baseball player Pavin Smith surprising his parents with the ultimate Christmas present. The Diamondbacks' top draft pick paying off their mortgage with his signing bonus.
First, $284 billion. That's how much a Pennsylvania woman thought she owed her power company for keeping her Christmas lights on. Look at that number. Turns out it was just an online mistake, and her statement was adjusted to the correct amount of $284. They just added a couple billion. And second, $337 million. That's how high the Powerball jackpot has reached. No one has matched Saturday's winning numbers, and now the prize has rolled over. And finally, $18 billion. That's how much money Americans spend on unwanted Christmas gifts for family and friends. I got to believe that number is even higher. A survey claims the average American receives at least one unwanted present, with 46% of them being clothes, especially for kids, or accessories.
Well, and speaking of that, if you didn't get what you want for Christmas,
these are for you.
Wiper blades. I don't even have a car.
No, but with this new car smell, you'll think you do.
Don't worry, we've got the top tips to exchange the items for what you do want and the best deals to get a little something extra for yourself.
Here with what you need to know is retail analyst Heather Herzog. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we got a few things that we don't necessarily like. Given we're grateful for them,
right?
But maybe
of course, always the thought that counts. It's amazing.
It does count, but not for everything sometimes.
Right. So you're talking about $16 billion worth of gifts that were given. There's 60 billion of those out of everything that's been spent that's going to be returned today and going into January. Wow. So I have a little roadmap for people that are going out there now to go and
what do you need?
Return.
What do you need to know if you want to return?
Well, first things first, you have to make sure that you know what the return policy is, because you don't. You might assume that you have a couple months, up to a year. Each store is different, so make sure that you know that return policy, and you also want to make sure that you have, with gifts, you're obviously getting a gift receipt. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, my handbag is just an amalgamation of just a bunch of, you guys probably don't have handbags, but
my wife's handbag is an absolute disaster.
I take pictures of my receipts. That way you always have that, and you go into stores.
It's a good idea.
You also want to make sure that, here in the United States, we don't negotiate. Let's say you don't have the receipt. It's fine. Everywhere else in the world, people negotiate when they go into retailers. You can go into a store and negotiate if you don't have that receipt.
Really? Like big retailers, they'll cut you a deal?
Sure. Listen, And my last tip is that you should always go in the morning. You know, it's always everyone's happier in the morning, but always be nice. You know, you can't go in there and just assume that you're going to get some, great deal, or if you don't have your receipt, and just, always come in with a smile.
You highlighted the inconsistency amongst these stores in terms of their return policies. Start us off with the best ones.
Right. Okay. So you want to talk about this open-ended policy, right? So that means that you could just go in there years later, wouldn't return anything. LL Bean is one of them.
They're amazing.
Nordstrom, yes. LL Bean,
Nordstrom's really good.
Literally run over something and then take it back into LL Bean 10 years ago, and they'll take it back. Also, Bed Bath & Beyond has a really good open-ended policy, and Bed and Body Works,
as
well as Land's End.
Okay, what about the ones that are up to a year?
Up to a year. So we're talking about, Amazon, Zappos also has these open-ended, up to a year. Macy's as well. So a lot of these retailers have up to a year.
This shocks me. I know nothing about shopping. So you're telling me I can get something on Christmas, wait until, I don't know, October, and then return it?
It's for specific stores. There's also other stores. For example, I went into Best Buy the other day. They told me that I had till January, and then they realized that I was a, quote, elite shopper. I guess my husband's going in there buying electronics. So I now have until January 15th.
Same thing with Kohl's and Amazon. Kohl's and Amazon are the end of January, according to?
Kohl's and Amazon at the end of January, exactly.
Amazon's a big one, so a lot of people bought it online.
If you think about it, 80% of people were buying gifts on mobile devices, according to PayPal. So that was a lot of big spend online.
So some people include receipts in the gifts they give. Some people don't. So what do you do if they didn't receive, or if they didn't include a receipt and maybe you don't like the gift and you want to return it?
You can always go in there. Again, like I said, negotiate. You can,
Can you just come with us if we need to?
I could just bring, no. I have the whole day for you. I'm just kidding. Yeah, but if you could always go into a store and negotiate and just say, hey, listen, here's the store. I mean, obviously they have barcodes on those products, so they can research, scan it,
Makes sense.
At the very least, you'll get credit.
Bed Bath & Beyond and Carter's are the ones that you don't need to bring any paperwork.
Exactly. Bed Bath & Beyond has
This is a test of the emergency alert system. I'm Sheriff Jim McDonald speaking to you from the Los Angeles County Emergency Operations Center, where we manage responses to major emergencies. Many broadcasters have agreed to deliver emergency information that will help you understand what is happening during an emergency and what you need to do. When you hear or receive a real EAS warning or alert via broadcast like this, phone, text, or email, you should immediately tune to one of those local radio or TV stations for more on what you need to do to protect your life and property. This concludes.
Well, who could forget when the president said this? Roll tape.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired.
He's fired is how it finished. But was the president's feud with the NFL the biggest sports story of the year? That list just revealed.
And never Trumper Jeff Flake predicting a Republican could challenge the president for the White House in 2020. But is he underestimating the Trump train? Former Congressman Jason Chaffetz weighs in when Fox and Friends returns.